The stellar wisdom emerged from hyperspace in a brilliant flash of light, its crystalline hull refracting sunlight across Earth's atmosphere in prismatic patterns. High Assessor Krithax stood on the observation deck, their 4 eyes blinking in rapid succession as they studied the blue planet below. The sight was unremarkable compared to the thousands of worlds they had evaluated over their centuries-long career. Another oxygen-nitrogen atmosphere, Krithax noted in their datapad. Typical Class II development pattern. Their assistant, Velmira, bobbed her luminescent tendrils in agreement as she processed the initial scans. The dominant species appears to have achieved rudimentary space travel, Velmira reported, her translator converting her bioluminescent pulses into standard galactic common. They've established a small orbital station and a single outpost on their moon. Krithax's scales shifted to a shade of dusky purple, indicating mild disappointment. Only their moon. How long have they had atomic theory? Approximately 200 solar cycles of their world. 200 cycles and only their moon. Krithax's scales darkened further. Add that to the preliminary assessment. Technological progression. Below average. The first contact protocol proceeded exactly as it had on countless other worlds. The stellar wisdom broadcasted the standard greeting across all frequencies, and within hours, Earth's various governing bodies had assembled a hasty welcome committee. Krithax observed the proceedings from their private chamber, watching as shuttles from different nations converged on a hastily chosen meeting site in a city called Geneva. Their transportation still relies on chemical propulsion, Krithax noted. Mark that down, Velmira. And their communication systems. They're still using electromagnetic waves. How charmingly primitive. The assessment team descended to the surface in their gravitically cushioned shuttle, making a point to land as gently as possible to avoid damaging the primitive landing pad. Krithax emerged wearing their ceremonial evaluation robes, all 4 arms draped in shimmering fabric that shifted colors with each movement. The human delegates stood waiting, their faces displaying a range of expressions that Krithax's species recognition software struggled to categorize. Excitement, fear, hope, and uncertainty all blended together in ways that seemed inefficient and chaotic. "Greetings, representatives of Earth," Krithax announced through their universal translator. "We come as members of the Galactic Assessment Council to evaluate your species for potential membership in the greater galactic community." The humans responded with appropriate diplomatic pleasantries, but Krithax was already making mental notes. Their vocal communication was limited to a narrow range of sounds. Their bodies were restricted to bipedal movement. Their sensory organs appeared basic, capable of detecting only the most obvious portions of the electromagnetic spectrum. The evaluation proceeded through its standard phases. Earth's technology was catalogued, their scientific understanding was measured, and their social structures were analyzed. Krithax found themselves growing increasingly certain of their initial impression. They still experience involuntary consciousness interruption every solar cycle, Krithax reported to Velmira that evening. They call it sleep. Can you imagine? Nearly a third of their lives spent in an unconscious state. Their physical capabilities are equally limited, Velmira added. No natural defenses, no ability to regulate their internal temperature without artificial assistance, and their regenerative abilities are minimal. Krithax began composing their preliminary report to the Council. Classification recommendation. Class D sapient species. Notable limitations include restricted sensory capacity, inefficient biological processes, slow technological development, and limited environmental adaptation capability. They paused, adding one final note. Recommend assignment to Outer Rim development zones, as their survival potential in more challenging sectors appears minimal. As the stellar wisdom prepared to depart Earth's orbit, Krithax watched the blue planet recede through their viewport. Another unremarkable evaluation. They said to no one in particular, "I predict we won't hear much from this species in the coming centuries." The assessment vessel's engines hummed to life, preparing for the jump to hyperspace. Crifax had already begun reviewing the details of their next assignment, Earth already fading from their thoughts like countless worlds before it. They had no way of knowing just how wrong their assessment would prove to be. The Galactic Council's colonial assignment chamber hummed with quiet energy as the human delegation entered. The massive crystalline walls displayed swirling star maps, highlighting available sectors in gentle pulses of blue light. Ambassador Sarah Chen stood at the center of the chamber, her posture straight despite the exhaustion of 3 days of negotiations. "We have reviewed your assessment classification," announced Council Leader Zixra, their crystalline form catching the starlight. "As a Class D species, you are eligible for colonial rights in the following sectors." The star map shifted, highlighting a series of points along the galaxy's outer edge in red. Sarah studied the indicated regions, her expression carefully neutral. Behind her, Dr. James Patel, Earth's leading xenoastrophysicist, rapidly analyzed the data streaming across his tablet. His eyes widened slightly as he processed the information. "Council Leader," Sarah began diplomatically, "these sectors appear to be primarily composed of unstable star systems and extreme environment planets." "Correct," Crifax interjected from their position among the council members. "These regions have been deemed suitable for species of your capabilities." Their scales rippled with what the human delegation had learned to recognize as poorly concealed condescension. Dr. Patil cleared his throat softly. "The nearest indicated sector contains 3 binary star systems with excessive radiation levels, 5 planets with gravity at least twice Earth standard, and a cluster of worlds with atmospheric pressure that would crush most known structures." "Indeed," Zixra confirmed. "More advanced species have found these areas challenging to colonize. We believe they will provide adequate opportunities for your species to establish themselves." Sarah exchanged glances with her team. They had expected challenges, but this felt more like exile than opportunity. Still, she remembered her briefing from Earth's Unified Council. Any foothold in the galactic community was better than none. "We accept these colonial assignments," Sarah declared, her voice firm. Behind her, Dr. Patel was already transmitting data back to Earth's colonial preparation teams. The next 3 months passed in a blur of activity. Earth's various space agencies pooled their resources, adapting their existing technologies for the harsh conditions they would face. Traditional materials were discarded in favor of new composites. Standard designs were reimagined from the ground up. On launch day, the first colonial fleet assembled in Earth's orbit. 12 massive ships, each carrying 10,000 colonists and enough supplies to establish initial settlements. Sarah stood on the observation deck of the flagship Terra Nova, watching the last shuttles dock. "Final system checks complete," reported Captain Maria Rodriguez. "All ships report ready for departure." The fleet engaged their newly adapted engines, based on simplified versions of galactic technology. They weren't as elegant as those used by advanced species, but Earth's engineers had made them remarkably reliable. Crifax observed the departure from the Stellar Wisdom, which had returned to document the humans' first interstellar colonial effort. Note in the record, they instructed Velmira that the humans are attempting colonization with notably primitive adaptations of standard technologies. The fleet's journey to their assigned sector took 3 weeks by galactic standards. During that time, the colonists underwent final preparations, studying the detailed environmental reports of their destination worlds. Their first target was a planet designated HT 217,728 bits, which the colonists had already nicknamed Hercules due to its crushing gravity. As the fleet entered orbit, Sarah stood with Captain Rodriguez on the bridge, watching the violent storms swirl across the planet's surface. "Weather control systems would make this trivial," Crifax commented from their observer's position. "Though I suppose such technology is beyond your current capabilities." Sarah didn't respond, but a slight smile played at the corners of her mouth. The first landing pods were already launching, using a design that Earth's engineers had adapted from deep-sea submersibles. "Beginning Phase 1 of colonial deployment," Captain Rodriguez announced, her voice broadcasting to all ships. "Remember your training. We didn't come this far to fail now." As the pods descended through Hercules' turbulent atmosphere, Sarah thought about all the experts who had said this mission was impossible, about all the advanced species who had dismissed these worlds as too challenging. "Well," she murmured to herself, watching the first pod's successful landing signal appear on the display. "Good thing nobody told us that." 3 galactic standard months after the initial colonization effort, Krithax stood in their office aboard the Stellar Wisdom, all 4 eyes fixed on the report floating before them. They blinked rapidly, a sign of confusion in their species. "Run the analysis again, Velmira," Krithax ordered, their scales shifting to a bewildered shade of blue-green. "These numbers cannot be correct." Velmira's tendrils pulsed as she processed the data once more. "Analysis confirmed, High Assessor. The human colony on Hercules has not only survived, but has established a functional mining operation. They are already extracting heavy elements from the planet's core." Krithax's scales rippled with disbelief. The gravity on Hercules should have made such operations nearly impossible without advanced gravitational manipulation technology. How are they managing the pressure differentials? According to their reports, Velmira continued, they've adapted something called deep-sea mining techniques. They appear to be using the planet's crushing gravity to their advantage in the extraction process. A High Assessor's curiosity finally overcame their skepticism. "Prepare my shuttle. I want to see this for myself." The descent to Hercules' surface was turbulent, even with the Stellar Wisdom's advanced technology. Through the viewport, Krithax observed the human settlement below. Instead of the expected towering structures of most colonial outposts, the humans had built their colony largely underground, with only a few reinforced domes visible on the surface. Sarah Chen met them at the airlock, wearing what appeared to be a mechanically assisted pressure suit. "Welcome to New Providence, High Assessor. We're honored by your visit." Krithax followed Sarah through the settlement's main corridor, noting the efficient use of space and surprisingly robust construction. "Your structures," they observed, "they're remarkably stable for such primitive materials." Sarah smiled. "We based the design on ant colonies, actually. Earth insects that build elaborate underground networks. The higher gravity actually helps compress and strengthen our construction materials." In the Mining Operations Center, Krithax watched in fascination as humans worked in teams, using the planet's natural pressure to force heavy elements through collection systems. It was inelegant compared to standard galactic mining techniques, but undeniably effective. "And these suits?" Krithax inquired, gesturing to the mechanical exoskeletons the workers wore. "They're not using any gravity manipulation technology." "No, just hydraulics and smart materials," Sarah explained. "We adapted them from deep-sea exploration suits used on Earth. The principles are similar, just scaled up for Hercules gravity." As they toured the facility, Krithax noticed something else unexpected. The humans seemed to be actively enjoying their work, despite the harsh conditions. They exchanged jokes, worked in coordinated teams, and showed none of the psychological strain typically associated with extreme environment colonies. "Your people appear to be adapting well," Krithax noted, trying to keep the surprise from their voice. Sarah nodded. "Humans have always been good at making the best of difficult situations. Besides, the gravity here isn't so different from what deep-sea workers experience on Earth." Later, in the colony's hydroponics section, Krithax observed another surprise. The humans had already begun cultivating native plant species, adapting them to produce edible fruits under the intense gravity. "How did you achieve this without genetic manipulation technology?" Krithax asked, examining a particularly robust specimen. "Selective breeding," Sarah replied. "An old Earth technique. Takes longer than genetic modification, but the results tend to be more stable." As Krithax prepared to depart, they found themselves revising many of their initial assumptions. The humans weren't succeeding despite their primitive technology. They were succeeding because they had learned to work with their limitations rather than trying to overcome them. Back aboard the Stellar Wisdom, Crithax began their report to the council. For the first time in their long career, they found themselves struggling to find the right words to describe what they had observed. Perhaps, they mused to Velmira, we need to reconsider our definition of advanced technology. Their scales had shifted to a thoughtful shade of violet. And perhaps we need to take a closer look at these humans. The emergency session of the Galactic Council cast an eerie glow across the Grand Chamber. Hundreds of delegates from advanced species gathered, their usual formal arrangements forgotten in the face of the crisis. The holographic displays showed spreading patches of red across the galaxy map, marking the advance of what had become known as the Stellar Plague. Crithax stood at the podium, their scales a muted gray of concern as they delivered their report. The infection has now spread to 73 core worlds. Our most advanced medical facilities report no success in containing its spread. Most concerning, it appears to be affecting primarily Class A and B species. Murmurs rippled through the chamber. Council leader Zixra's crystalline form pulsed with worried light. And the outer colonies. That's the peculiar aspect, Crithax responded, bringing up a new data set. The human colonies, despite their limited medical technology, report no cases, not a single one. The chamber erupted in shocked discussions. Sarah Chen sat quietly in the observers section, her expression thoughtful as she studied the data streams on her tablet. Impossible, declared Medical Administrator Val Zen, their gelatinous form quivering with skepticism. The humans lack even basic genetic shielding. Their medical technology is centuries behind ours. They still rely on chemical compounds for treating illness. Sarah stood, waiting to be recognized. Council leader Zixra nodded, granting her permission to speak. If I may, she began, we've seen something similar before on Earth. The pattern of transmission, the way it affects different species. It reminds me of what we call zoonotic diseases. Crithax's scales shifted to a curious blue. Explain. Throughout Earth's history, when different populations came into contact for the first time, diseases often spread from one group to another. The receiving population, having no natural immunity, would be devastated while the carrier population remained largely unaffected. The council chamber grew quiet as Sarah continued. We've developed extensive experience in studying and controlling such outbreaks. If you'll allow us, we'd like to offer our assistance. Medical Administrator Val Zen's color darkened with indignation. You suggest that we, with our advanced medical technology, should accept help from a species that still experiences natural death. Yes, Sarah replied simply. Because sometimes the oldest solutions are the most effective. After hours of heated debate, the council reluctantly agreed. Within days, human medical teams were dispatched to the most affected worlds. They brought with them not advanced technology, but centuries of experience in dealing with viral mutations, cross-species transmission, and natural immunity development. Dr. Elena Rodriguez, Earth's leading epidemiologist, worked alongside Crithax in the main research facility on Capital World. She examined samples through what the advanced species considered an antiquated microscope, her expression growing increasingly animated. Look at this, she said, gesturing Crithax to the viewer. The virus structure is almost identical to a common Earth rhinovirus, what we call the common cold. Our bodies have been fighting variations of this for millennia. Crithax's scales shifted through several shades of realization. Your species' primitive immune system isn't primitive at all, Elena completed. It's robust, adaptable. Earth has millions of viral and bacterial species. We've evolved alongside them, developed natural defenses. Your advanced medical technology protected you so well that your species never needed to develop these kinds of immunities. Within weeks, human medical teams had developed a treatment protocol, combining their understanding of natural immunity with galactic medical technology. The plague's spread began to slow, then stop. In the aftermath, Crithax found themselves in their office, composing yet another report about the humans. Their scales had settled into a deep purple of profound thought. Perhaps, they said to Velmira, who was organizing the data from the crisis. "We have been measuring advancement by the wrong criteria all along." Velmira's tendrils pulsed in agreement. The human strength seems to lie not in overcoming their limitations, but in turning them into advantages. Krithax looked out at the stars, thinking of all the other assumptions they might need to reconsider. "I believe," they said slowly, "that we have much to learn from our primitive friends." The grand research facility on Capital World buzzed with unprecedented activity. Teams of human and alien scientists worked side by side, their attention focused on the massive data displays that covered the curved walls. Dr. Elena Rodriguez stood at the central platform, presenting her findings to an assembly of the galaxy's most renowned medical researchers. "The key isn't in the technology," Elena explained, gesturing to a holographic display of human cellular structure. "It's in our history. Earth's biosphere has been a battleground of evolution for billions of years." Krithax watched from their observation pod, their scales shifting between shades of fascination as Elena continued her presentation. The human scientist manipulated the display, showing the complex dance of human immune responses. "Our immune system didn't develop in a laboratory," Elena continued. "It evolved through countless challenges, failures, and adaptations. Every virus, every bacteria we survived made us stronger, more adaptable." Medical Administrator Valzen's gelatinous form rippled with reluctant interest. "But your species still succumbs to these primitive pathogens. We had eliminated such threats centuries ago." Elena smiled. "That's exactly the point. By eliminating all threats, advanced species lost the evolutionary pressure that kept immune systems robust and adaptable. You solved one problem but accidentally created another." The display shifted to show comparison data between human immune responses and those of more advanced species. The difference was striking. Where advanced species showed specialized but rigid defense mechanisms, human immune systems demonstrated remarkable flexibility. "Look at this," Elena highlighted a particular sequence. "When human immune systems encounter a new threat, they don't just fight it. They learn from it, adapt to it, and prepare for similar threats in the future. It's not perfect, but it's incredibly versatile." Krithax moved closer, their scientific curiosity fully engaged. "This explains your species' survival in the harsh colonial environments as well. You're not just surviving the challenges, you're adapting to them." "Precisely," Elena agreed. "Every challenge we face becomes part of our collective experience, part of our evolutionary story. We don't just overcome obstacles, we learn from them." The assembled scientists watched as Elena demonstrated how human medical knowledge, combined with advanced galactic technology, could create new approaches to disease prevention and treatment. It wasn't about replacing one system with another, but finding the best of both worlds. Later, in a private conference room, Krithax reviewed the findings with the Council's Scientific Advisory Board. The implications went far beyond medical science. "Their entire civilization follows this pattern," Krithax explained, their scales now a deep blue of revelation. "Their technology isn't primitive, it's resilient. Their solutions aren't crude, they're adaptable. We've been measuring advancement by how far species have moved away from natural challenges." Council member Zixra's crystalline form pulsed thoughtfully. "And the humans suggest we should measure it by how well species can adapt to those challenges instead." Dr. Rodriguez was invited to join them, bringing with her a historical database of Earth's medical achievements. The council members watched in fascination as she showed them how humans had turned seemingly insurmountable challenges into opportunities for growth. "This is why your colonial experiments succeeded," Krithax realized. "Where we saw hostile environments, you saw opportunities to adapt and evolve." Elena nodded. "Humanity's greatest strength isn't in avoiding challenges, it's in embracing them. Every obstacle we faced has made us more resilient, more innovative." As the presentation concluded, Krithax found themselves composing yet another report to the council. But this time, their words carried a different tone. They weren't just documenting human achievement, they were recommending a fundamental shift in how the galaxy viewed advancement. Perhaps, they wrote, their scales now a vibrant purple of excitement. It's time we learned from the species we once dismissed as primitive. The humans haven't just survived in spite of their challenges, they've thrived because of them. The implications would reshape galactic society in ways none of them could fully predict. And somewhere in the vast chambers of the Council archives, a simple classification, Class D Sapiens, awaited revision. The Grand Council chamber gleamed with crystalline light as delegates from across the galaxy assembled for a historic session. At the center of attention stood Krithax, their scales shimmering with an unprecedented combination of colors reflecting the magnitude of the moment. Honored members of the Council, Krithax began, their voice carrying across the vast chamber. I stand before you today to propose a fundamental reorganization of our species classification system. The attending delegates murmured as massive holographic displays illuminated the space above them. Sarah Chen and Dr. Elena Rodriguez sat in the diplomatic section, watching as years of research and collaboration culminated in this moment. Beside them, Dr. James Patil monitored a data stream showing real-time updates from human colonies across the galaxy. For millennia, Krithax continued, we have classified species based on their technological advancement, their mastery over natural limitations, and their transcendence of biological constraints. Their scales shifted to a deep blue of certainty. We were wrong. The chamber erupted in shocked whispers. Council leader Zixra's crystalline form pulsed with interest, signaling for silence. I propose a new classification. Adaptive sapiens, Krithax announced. Species who don't merely overcome their environment, but evolve with it. Species who don't just solve problems but learn from them. Species who transform limitations into strengths. The holographic displays showed data from human colonies across the galaxy. On Hercules, third-generation colonists moved through crushing gravity with natural grace. On Tempestus, children born to the storms predicted weather patterns more accurately than advanced sensors. The humans, Krithax gestured to the Earth delegation, have demonstrated that true advancement isn't about escaping natural challenges. It's about developing the resilience and creativity to thrive within them. Medical Administrator Val Zen, once skeptical of human capabilities, moved forward to present supporting data. Their immune systems, which we once dismissed as primitive, have proven to be remarkably sophisticated. Their sleep cycles, which we saw as inefficient, enable unique problem-solving abilities. Dr. Elena Rodriguez stood to address the Council, her voice clear and confident. We don't seek to replace advanced technology with primitive solutions. Instead, we propose a synthesis, combining the best of biological adaptation with technological innovation. The displays shifted to show successful collaborations between human and alien scientists. New medical treatments combining natural immunity with advanced technology. Colonial developments integrating biological adaptation with environmental engineering. Furthermore, Krithax continued, their scales now shimmering with enthusiasm. We propose that Earth become a center for adaptation studies. Their historical records contain countless examples of successful adaptation to environmental challenges. The Council members watched footage from Earth's natural history, seeing how life had adapted to every conceivable environment. From the deepest oceans to the highest mountains, from frozen tundra to scorching deserts, Earth's biosphere demonstrated endless variations of adaptive success. This isn't just about reclassifying humans, Sarah Chen added, standing to address the Council. It's about recognizing a different kind of advancement, one that embraces challenge rather than escaping it. The debate continued for hours, but the evidence was undeniable. Species across the galaxy had already begun studying human methods, incorporating their adaptive strategies into their own development. As the session drew to a close, Council leader Zixra rose to speak. The Council recognizes the validity of this proposal. Effective immediately, we will begin implementing the new classification system, with humans serving as the benchmark for adaptive sapient classification. Krithax's scales settled into a deep purple of satisfaction as they watched the Council members file out, already discussing the implications of this dramatic shift in galactic philosophy. Later, in a quiet observation lounge, Krithax stood with Sarah, Elena, and James, watching the galactic core shimmer through the vast windows. "You know," Sarah mused, "when you first classified us as Class D, we were disappointed. Now I realize we needed that challenge. It drove us to prove ourselves." Krithax's scales rippled with amusement. Perhaps that is the most human trait of all, the ability to turn even disappointment into opportunity. As they stood there, watching the stars, none of them could fully grasp how this moment would reshape the galaxy's future. But they all understood that something profound had changed. The age of mere technological advancement was ending. The era of adaptive evolution had begun. 5 years after the establishment of the adaptive sapient classification, Earth's orbital space had transformed beyond recognition. The gleaming spires of the Galactic Adaptation Research Center stretched toward the stars, its crystalline structures housing scientists from thousands of worlds. Krithax stood in their new office, their scales a content shade of gold as they reviewed the latest reports. Through the panoramic window, they could see ships arriving from across the galaxy, each bringing new students eager to learn the art of adaptive development. "High Director," Velmira announced, her tendrils pulsing with excitement. "The first results from the synthesis program are ready for review." The synthesis program, perhaps the most ambitious project in galactic history, combined advanced alien technology with human adaptive strategies. On the main display, data streamed in from hundreds of test sites. "Show me the Tempestus update first," Krithax requested, their scales shifting to an interested blue. The display showed the storm world's latest developments. Human wind riding techniques, combined with advanced energy manipulation, had created a new form of atmospheric transportation. Ships now sailed the lightning storms, drawing power from the very tempests that had once made the planet uninhabitable. "And Hercules?" Krithax inquired. "Even more remarkable," Velmira responded. "The fusion of human pressure adaptation techniques with gravitational technology has allowed us to establish cities in gravity wells we once thought impossible to colonize." Dr. Elena Rodriguez entered the office, accompanied by a delegation of young scientists from various species, ready for today's adaptation seminar. "High Director." Krithax's scales rippled with enthusiasm. "Of course. What's today's focus?" "Creative problem-solving through environmental immersion," Elena explained. "We're taking the students to experience Earth's deep ocean research stations. Several classes species have already expressed interest in adapting similar techniques for gas giant exploration." The transformation hadn't been limited to technology. Galactic culture itself was evolving. Species that had once prided themselves on transcending their biological limitations now sought to understand and enhance their natural capabilities. In the medical sector, Dr. James Patel led a team developing what they called hybrid immunity, combining the adaptability of human immune systems with the precision of advanced medical technology. Initial results showed promise in protecting against both known and unknown pathogens. Sarah Chen, now serving as Earth's representative on the Galactic Council, appeared on the communication screen. "Krithax, you'll be pleased to hear the Council has approved the expansion of the Adaptation Exchange Program. We'll be sending human teachers to every major learning center in the galaxy." "Excellent news," Krithax responded, their scales shifting to a pleased violet. "And the new colonial initiatives?" "Moving ahead of schedule," Sarah confirmed. "Teams of human and alien scientists are already surveying systems we once thought uninhabitable. It turns out there are a lot of worlds out there just waiting for the right adaptation strategy." Later that day, Krithax stood before a new batch of students in the center's main lecture hall. The audience represented species from across the technological spectrum, all united by their interest in adaptive development. 10 years ago," Krithax began, "I stood in the council chamber and declared humans to be unremarkable. It was perhaps the most remarkable mistake of my career." Their scales shifted through a rainbow of emotional colors as they continued. "What I failed to understand then, what we all failed to understand, was that true advancement isn't about escaping our limitations. It's about embracing them, understanding them, and through them, finding new ways to grow. The students listened intently as Krithax shared stories of human innovation, of colonies thriving in impossible conditions, of solutions found in dreams and inspiration drawn from Earth's endless diversity of life. "We called them underdogs," Krithax concluded, their scales settling into a deep, wise purple. "We thought their need to adapt was a weakness. Instead, it was the greatest strength any species could possess, the ability to look at a challenge and see not an obstacle, but an opportunity." As the lecture concluded, Krithax watched their students file out, each carrying a piece of this new understanding back to their homeworlds. Through the grand windows of the center, Earth shone blue and beautiful, no longer a primitive world at the galaxy's edge, but a shining example of what adaptation, resilience, and creativity could achieve. The underdogs had become the teachers, and the galaxy was better for it.